ask him. I'll just tell him that you're going to call him in. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry. Kid drop off.
Get him to school.
You're watching Cable 2.
To call the meeting to order. Good morning and welcome to the December 5th, 2023 Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools Board of Education special called meeting. I'm Deanna Kaplan, Board Chair. I appreciate your attendance. Will you please rise as we start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order of business tonight is the agenda review. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Board Member Crowley, a second by Board Member Barr. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. We have one discussion item this morning. Dr. Chris Weichart, Chief Human Resource Officer, will discuss the proposed revisions to Board Policy 4140, Salary Administration, and AR 4140. Yes.
Board Member Wood, he's not answering.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I will text him and tell him that we tried.
Good evening, or whoa, holy smoke, it's morning. Good morning. I'm always good to at least say the wrong salutation at least once a year, so do not worry, the new year comes in January, so I'll be ready again. But good morning. I stand before you today to discuss revisions to Board Policy 4140 and AR 4140. The focus of our revisions is first to bring it in alignment with current state policies. The last time this policy was revised was 2010. A lot has changed in our state since 2010. We also need to revise it to our salary schedules and other practices and board actions we've done over the years, but didn't really update the policy. And then the main part is to discuss the criteria and how we can implement a local service longevity supplement for our classified employees from the levels 50 to program specialist. So there's a lot to this document. Using the markup features, if you look at it, it looks quite messy. A lot of revisions, some of it was just general updates. Big additions is we actually added the principal and assistant principal pay schedules to our policy. We did not have that in our current policies. We also allowed the 5% increase for vacancy coverage up to the level of program manager. We've had that up for classified roles. Over time, the board has taken actions to allow that in certain circumstances, but not consistently across the board. So to make sure it's equitable, we wanted to make sure it was in policy. And then also putting a policy that will look at adopting our salary schedules, the minimals with any increases the state gives or the Board of Education deems to give. That will hopefully help us with any pay disparity as folks come in and come out between the grades. And then the big thing is the local longevity service supplement. The eliminations that you'll see in here is previously, and back in 2010, we actually would differentiate our pay between our part-time and our full-time employees. So part-time employees would get paid more than full-time on an hourly basis. We haven't done that in numerous years. We also took out the language for 12-month installment pay for our 10-month employees due to the state actually eliminating that. Our employees still can do that through their credit unions and banks. And then we also eliminated the work negotiable for salaries of assistant superintendents because we do have a salary schedule for that. The superintendent's salaries negotiates with the board. Otherwise, we have salary schedules. Then revisions is moving to a flat rate for our new employee groups that are eligible for a local longevity service supplement. Currently, our policy has a 2-to-1 ratio for outside Winston-Salem, Forsyth County experience. It also has a 1-to-1 experience ratio in there. It's very hard to implement that because they're going off a resume. When it talks about job alike, it definitely causes some inequities or potential for inequities on how folks write their resume. There's no way to easily verify it. And then it also just comes in, you have folks coming in here with this, you have folks that are here. It just really makes everything very convoluted. So by going to a flat rate system, where it currently would be state minimum plus 6%, that's where all of our new employees at, and then every 3 years, they're getting their bump from the local longevity, so then they're getting their experiences. And then as the state or the board deems to raise the salaries for that scale, then it goes with the market or hopefully with inflation. Use the word market just saying as in general terms, not actual market rate. Our local longevity service supplement, the employee groups, and this is the real key part here, is our grades between 50 and 78, our skill-based skills, which is your maintenance and your transportation mechanics, and your program and operations support specialists or management positions. This does not include anyone from director level or above. These are our lowest paid employees. The employee criteria, and this is kind of where the rubber meets the road, if you will, is for folks who have been employed with our school division in a permanent or part-time position at 20 hours or per week, or in the case of custodians or child nutrition workers, 15 hours per week. The reason for the difference is we have a high number of employees in child nutrition who only get 15 hours a week. And we don't want to overlook them. We have some custodians that are in the evenings that are 3-hour employees over time. So this would be permanent, folks, and this is going to take a little time to calculate. The way we'll do it is HR will look at it. We'll have to go employee by employee and look at all the assignments. Our software, anytime someone changes assignment, changes the new hire date. So if you've had 4 positions in our school division, though you just changed positions 2 years ago, your new hire date is set for 2 years ago. So we'll literally go employee by employee looking at their status. Are you in permanent status? Which means you're in a regular position. So you're not talking temporary or substitutes. And were you 20 hours a week or better? So that means you're earning state paid holiday leave, with the exception of the custodians and child nutrition workers. We'll do those calculations every July 1, or starting around July 1. This first year will actually retro back to July 1 as far as the calculation, because the date is set on July 1. If there's 2.5, it rounds to 3. If it's 2.4, it stays 2. That goes in line with how teachers' credit years experience goes as well. So we set the credit at the beginning of the year, pending board approval every year for salary schedules and budget, and then they get their percentage. So it's a little different, and this is where I want to be real clear. It's not like state longevity where you have an anniversary month. We're going to set it every July 1, and that's for multiple reasons, but one is just be able to implement it with fidelity. If we try to do it every month, we don't have the staff or the software to do it and do it correctly. And what we do not want to do is have a policy that we cannot implement correctly, consistently. We've shared this chart before. This is kind of how it works. It's in 3 years bands. So someone who has 3 to 5 years of service to Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools would get an extra 1%. If you have 30+ years, you're at 10%. So for example, let's say I had someone that was at 2.5 years on July 1. They started in December of 2.5 years ago. They would get the 1% because the 2.5 rounds up. And we use the thought of like the teacher scales do. Our implementation steps, approving pending the board allowing this to go to public comment, the HR department will start service assessments. It'll be a 2-pronged approach. A specialist will review every employee, and then a second one will verify. Then we send that information to finance to verify the service, so you get 3 people looking at it. Of course, we have to do budget calculations before implementation of anything. We've done some estimates, but we really need a true reality. Then we'll actually communicate with those employees, letting them know this is your years. The nice thing about printing this out and having 2 people look at it, if employees have questions, we'll be able to provide them how we did our calculations, because the key is transparency. And then we'll start implementing. This is part of a multiple years progress that we're doing. We've revised our next steps. We have to revise our pay scales to the new state scale formatting. It's the Office of Human Resources, state OSHR, Office of State Human Resource System, which is an NC-4. It's NC1- through NC9, and there's also a different one there as well for MC. We're going to have to reclassify all positions to match that pay grade area. You may be asking, well, hey, Chris, years of experience aren't going to matter when we bring someone in. Well, we hope to do that through actually the way we do our jobs. So I'm going to use plumber here, for example. A plumber one might be a person that comes in that has some qualifications, meets minimum qualifications, that maybe they don't only have a few years experience, they only have a few certifications. That would be a plumber one. However, a plumber three might have a minimal requirement of 15 years of experience in other certifications. And honestly, I probably picked the wrong one of ever because I don't know much about plumbing, so I can't tell you the certifications. So bad example for my part. But that would be the level. So we would have so many plumbers. Like you might have, let's say we have 8 plumbers. So we might, from position control, have 4 plumber threes and 4 plumber ones. All right? Just because I meet these qualifications doesn't necessarily mean I get to go to plumber 3. It has to be a slot that I would have to interview for or apply for. The best comparison I have is if you're in U.S. military, you have certain qualifications. There's certain qualifications, where you get, there's certain prerequisites you have to make, and then you have to wait and apply for certain positions before you get promoted. So this kind of, your years of experience, you have your pay grades, and then we have going by job title to count for different compensation for experience, and then our service to our system, which is what our previous policies really have recognized with the 1-to-1 ratio and outside being 2-to-1. We just didn't really say it directly. This policy says very specifically, we recognize Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools experience. All right, we hold that higher than outside experience. All right, that's important to us. Then they have that on top. This, from a financial standpoint, an HR standpoint, will be much more easier to manage position control-wise as you go into your budget season. If you know you have so many plumber threes, so many plumber ones, and we can look at that for a lot of different positions. Questions?
Board Member Kuhn?
I have several. Okay, one of them is a bit of maybe I'm not understanding something, so I'm hoping you can help me clarify. It's some language in the actual policy.
Okay.
So I don't know, can we pull that up? The policy, the part of the presentation? It's in the presentation. Yeah. So we're looking at, let me find it. It is the piece talking about where you were talking about the experience and bringing people in. It's called, I don't know how it's labeled. It's page 3, but it is C, all other employees, new hires, rehires.
Yeah.
And it's number 2.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, I was so sure.
And again, this may just be me not understanding, and
No
it may
problem.
be clear to everyone else and just clear as mud to me. So it says new hires that have more than the minimum amount of experience required for a position shall be given credit of 0.6 per year is added to the minimum pay level. Okay.
Yep.
So
Looking for, that's in the AR. Let me find, can you pull up the AR for me? Yes, yeah, he has the
Okay.
other one up for me.
So the person has, they come in or they're being rehired
Yeah.
and they have X amount of experience and they're going to get the
Yeah.
0.6 added to that,
So-
whatever that minimum pay level is.
Yep.
Am I understanding that
That's
piece
okay.
correctly?
Yes, ma'am, can I pause 1 second here?
Yeah.
And I probably should have put this presentation. We were really focused on the pay grade 50 to our office managers. That area is talking about Director 1 to Executive Director, and that's our current adopted salary schedules thing. So what they get, you got it correct, they get outside experience, like it reads. Pull it up for me, thank you.
Okay. But we're still changing the policy, so I have questions about
Sure.
it,
Yes,
no
ma'am.
matter if we're focusing
Yeah.
on longevity pay or
Oh,
not.
of course. Yes, ma'am. I just want to make sure we separate the two.
So it's saying that, so they're getting a .6 added to the minimum pay. And then it says the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Division is, and maybe there's missing words and it's not worded correctly, but administrative within Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Division is provide 1% per year. So that would be, so they have 8 years of experience, so they're gonna get 8% additional on top. I guess
Yeah.
it's,
So,
the language seems
Yeah.
a little messy, so I'm not
Yeah.
understanding.
all right, yes, ma'am. So for our Chief Director 1 to Chief Program Officers, there's an interesting calculation we use. We actually have an Excel file to do it. So if they have inside it, they get .6 for every year above of administrative experience. So let's say, for example, you have a position that requires 5 years. Employee 5 years of administrative experience. So they have 10 years of experience. So we take 10 minus 5, which gives us 5, and we'll times that by .6, and they'll get that added to the percent. And then, depending on where the experience occurred at, the 10 years, if it was in our school division, it'd be a 1-to-1 ratio, so it'd be another 10%, so you'd end up having 15% above the minimal requirement. If it was outside of Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, it would be 5%, so that person would get 10%. So you could have 2 employees coming in with equal experience levels, or applicants coming in, and one would get 10% above the minimum on the salary schedule, and one would get 15. And this is for the Director 1 to Chief Program Officer. That's the area that we have to kind of address next.
Correct, and I understand that that's
Yeah.
the area that is. I feel like the wording here
Yeah,
is potentially not real clear.
all right.
And if we could, this is a policy change, whether
Yeah.
we're addressing longevity
Yes,
pay
ma'am.
or not, this is a policy change. So if we are going to change a policy, I think when it deals with any employee and what is their pay, we need to make sure that the language is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
And I feel like this isn't, I just feel like it's a little,
All right.
and maybe nobody else agrees, but I have some.
All right. We can work on that, ma'am.
My other question is when we're talking about the program specialist or managers, just to be clear, this would be a position, an example of like a cafeteria manager or a transportation supervisor. So those folks don't fall into directors and such, even though they sometimes may have a title of
Yes.
a transportation director
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something like that.
They wouldn't be a director, they'd be maybe a possibly assistant director is a common one I see, coordinator. We have lots of, we have a various number of names. Give me a second, I'll try to find a few. Coordinator, assistant director, specialist, program manager, those are all the most common names used in those levels.
Okay. I just want to make sure some of those folks are really, they are some of our lower paid folks. And I just
right.
wanted to make sure that that was real clear, that those folks fall into where we are talking about with longevity pay.
Yes, ma'am.
And then I've had some folks ask the question about our day workers, which are some of our custodians and some of our child nutrition folks. And they don't fall into this because they're coming through a temporary agency. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And may I add something to that? I want to be real clear. I believe transparency is the best way you can do it, right? Is substitute experience unfortunately does not count. Temporary employment does not count. And we did not include anyone who's been working for our contractor services providers in counting for this. And the rationale for that is there's no equitable way to verify the employment. Because people, you might be working for ESS, but there's no way we can, through our payroll records or HR records, to say, yes, this person was here for this time. Because sometimes staffing agencies, you know, we move, there's natural ebb and flow between employee and placement. We really looked hard at trying to figure out a way to do it. We couldn't find a way to do it that would be fair across all employee groups.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So I did
Okay,
have,
sorry, Alex.
I did have a question or two. I think first, I agree with Board Member Kuhn that the language was a little bit confusing for me. And I also had received some feedback about that. So if we can clarify that, that would be good, just for the sake of staff and those who might have questions around that. I think my first question is, amongst these edits, was there anything that previously was in the policy that has been moved to the AR?
Not that I can recall, sir.
Okay. And so just for the sake of the public, so and the understanding of the process, so when the state passes a budget, the state passes a budget annually, and then DPI does their salary schedules first. And then when we get those, we have to we have to do our calculations to create our own, right? Or, like with the supplements and things like that.
Yes, sir.
And then the board passes those salary schedules every year.
Yes, sir.
And so, and we have not, because I know the state budget just recently kind of passed, but after we've kind of finished this policy up, that's going to help you all, to be able to kind of get calculations done, and we'll be seeing salary schedules on one of these agendas when.
So you've already approved the salary schedule at the last meeting.
Or for which group in particular?
I'm looking to CFO to make sure I'm not, I believe this was a salary schedule. Okay, I apologize at all. I know it was
They'll
sent.
approve this in January.
Okay, it'll be approved in January. I apologize. So yes, I thought it was part of the budget. I'm sorry.
And so we're still doing the separate ones we're still doing separate salary schedules for, so I know we have teachers and then administrators, and then what are the different groups again? Remind me.
No problem. So you have your teacher scales, which can be teachers, the media, counselors. You have your assistant principal scale. You have your principal scale. Then you have your classified 50 through 78. You have your program managers, specialists. Then you have your director 1 through CPO 3 to superintendent area, which is I refer to as central office. You also,
Your
I think,
occupational
occupational therapist and PT, physical therapist. Our division adopted schedules that look very similar to the teacher scales, but they're technically classified employees, so they get the state doesn't give the pay raises like the teachers, so we do the 4 or 6%, whatever the board adopts, which in this past year was 6.
Got it. And so we have not approved any of those salary schedules for this fiscal year at this time.
No, sir. Yes, that's correct. You approved us to raise them by 6%. Now we have to give them to you to approve.
Correct.
Right. Got it. Thank you so much.
Any other questions, discussion? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
I appreciate the incredible work that has gone into this, and to Mr. Krantz, too. Thank you very much. We will now move to our action item. We have 1, consider approval to post revisions to policy 4140 for public comment. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Oh, yes. Do you want to come up here for voting? Okay, we'll wait just a second for our,
And Chair Kaplan, just for discussion, I want to thank Board Member Kuhn for bringing this matter expeditiously
Yes.
to the board instead of waiting until the new year. So thank you.
absolutely.
Board Member Kuhn.
Thank you, Board Member Kuhn. So we'll wait for Board Member Brown Gaither. So we have a motion by Board Member Crowley, a second by Board Member Miller. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. Okay, so, so the next part is announcements. Tuesday, December 12th will be our next regular meeting of the Board of Education. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. We are adjourned with a special called meeting.
Thank you for joining us on your school channel, Cable 2.